my god. You're so awesome, Lawrence Lim.
It's Lawrence Lim with the W. Bam, 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 bam.
She is Melody, and she's having a great time riding her snowmobile until she crosses in the opposite direction from where she was supposed to go. The next thing we see is her doing several flips in the air and landing awkwardly in the cold snow. When she wakes up, she has a branch stuck in her thigh, and blood stands out against the white snow. Using all her survival instincts, she manages to drag herself to a nearby cabin where she is found by Henry, an almost hermit who doesn't like intruders. However, realizing the situation, he helps the young woman, but not before checking the area to make sure she's alone and that there's nobody with her. Inside the cabin, Melody briefly opens her eyes a couple of times, only to see Henry holding some sharp instruments, scissors, knives, everything that could be terrifying in a situation like that. When night falls, Melody is lying down, resting long enough for us to see a flashback of Henry. After all, he seems skilled with knives and doesn't look like a simple countryman. It turns out Henry is a hitman with more than 100 completed jobs. His last target was a corrupt magnate named Kessler, whom he watched for weeks until he had the chance to be with him in a sauna. As soon as the steam rose, Kessler's body fell to the floor. Before the steam dissipated, Henry already had his clothes on and was on his way to the locker they had assigned him to collect his payment. A few days later, during Kessler's funeral, 2 detectives were present. Their names are Kappa and Davis, who is experienced enough to realize that the magnate did not die from a simple fall in the sauna. Davis tells Kappa that Kessler was executed with some special bullets that disintegrate in the body as if they were made of ice. Back at the station, Kappa interrogates Briggle, Kessler's right-hand man. He tells her that his boss was an extremely rich and powerful man. You don't get to that kind of position without making some enemies along the way. So yes, there are plenty of people who would have wanted him dead, but he wasn't one of them. Besides, the biggest concern at the moment is finding Melody, since she's the only heir to the entire empire. If something happens to her, the companies will be sold for parts to the highest bidder. Hundreds of millions of dollars lost with the death of just one person. That's why, when news of Kessler's death came out, Charlie was taken to a secret location to protect her safety. We leave the police station and travel to a gloomy apartment in the downtown area. There is Melody, packing her things for her trip, all under the intense, watchful eye of Malcolm, her bodyguard, who senses that something is off. He decides to enter the apartment, only to find it empty. Melody managed to slip away, leaving him behind, and now she's arriving in the mountains, hoping to have some fun. You already know how it ended, so don't let it spoil it for you. Upon arriving at the resort, Melody goes to the snowmobile mechanic and tells him she needs one capable of reaching the Pacific, a very long and dangerous trip. He keeps his warnings to himself when Melody hands him $1,000 so he won't say anything and just give her the keys. Thus begins the young woman's journey, riding for several hours until she runs out of fuel. While refilling it, a young man approaches and offers her a place to spend the night, but Melody ignores him and finishes what she's doing, leaving him with his false hopes of flirting. Now that we're up to date on events, we return to the cabin where Henry is pulling out some splinters from Melody's leg. The biggest wound is clean, but they must deal with each splinter before bandaging her up. Not far from there, in town, Kappa and Davis talk about the Parma bullets made to disintegrate in a person's body, something used only by professionals or perhaps some high-ranking military personnel. Meanwhile, Kappa continues investigating Briggle. Something about his excessive cooperation didn't sit well with her, so she had his phone tapped. Maybe in his calls or messages, they'll find something useful. A few days later, an order comes down from above, and Davis ends up being reassigned to another office with a raise and early retirement. An offer he can't refuse, leaving Kappa alone. Back at the cabin, Henry has hunted a deer, and its meat will be enough for a while. However, he makes it clear to Melody that she should start moving her leg. The sooner she can walk, the sooner she can leave, because he wants to return to his peaceful, problem-free life. She tries to explain that she just wants to cross the forest to the Pacific. She's looking for a new beginning. The next morning, Henry goes to the crash site to retrieve Melody's things, and the first thing he notices is that there is nothing in the area between where the accident began and where it ended, meaning Melody lied about it. But before he returns to confront her, he is visited by a pair of wolves attracted by the blood. With a ruthless killer's gaze, the wolves back off, realizing Henry would not be easy prey for them. Upon returning to the cabin, Henry finds Melody on the floor, a sign that at least she's trying. Meanwhile, Kappa has Briggle's phone records, which detail several calls to Malcolm. The strange thing is that all of them last less than 5 seconds, a clue that might be worth pursuing. In Malcolm's case, he has tracked down the snowmobile guy, who shares no information unless they pay him. He then reveals that the girl left 2 days ago toward the Pacific, but the GPS stopped working yesterday. Malcolm rents a snowmobile and heads out to the last location the GPS transmitted. Meanwhile, Melody and Henry are becoming friends. She asks him why he lives alone and far away from the city, but he remains silent, adding that this is what he wants. He got tired of the hustle and bustle of big cities after many years. He just wanted to live alone in a cabin, far from everything and everyone. And as soon as he achieved it, she arrived to ruin it. On the other hand, Kappa continues her investigation and finds Kessler's ex-wife in a nursing home, where they are treating her dementia. She doesn't have much useful information, except that Charlie's not a boy. The heir to everything Kessler had is his daughter, a fact that makes Kappa feel like an idiot. She let Briggle's words fool her and never verified the heir's gender. Now she must return to the station to pass on this information. Back at the cabin, Henry has treated all of Melody's wounds, and they've actually managed to chat for a bit. Now that she's softened up the stubborn old man, Melody says goodnight and goes to sleep. The next morning she gets up and sees Henry fishing, sitting on the edge of the pier. Convinced that she has killed Henry, Melody breathes a sigh of relief for a moment, but then ends up being overpowered by the old man. Henry is no fool. He never let his guard down, which allowed him to stay one step ahead. From the moment he discovered the snowmobile and realized it wasn't an accident, he remained alert. Melody was there to kill him, but now she's stuck under a huge log that keeps her from moving, and she has a lot of questions to answer. As expected, Melody is Charlie, trained by Brigel to take control of the company, but before that, she wanted to avenge her father, and Brigel gave her the opportunity. At that moment, Henry confesses that he was hired not only to kill Kessler, but also his son. However, he decided to take only half the money and retire. He had had enough of that life and wasn't willing to kill a child. But now that he has his target right in front of him, everything makes sense. After comparing the phone numbers Brigel gave her, Charlie discovers that it was Brigel who ordered her father's death and only helped her in her quest for revenge so that she would also die confronting someone like Henry. He never trusted that she could do it. He was sure Charlie would die, and that way he could get rich from selling the company. That night, while Henry and Charlie discuss what to do with this new information they have, a series of shots come through the window. It's Malcolm, who's here to make sure that none of them leaves that place alive. After an intense shootout, Charlie manages to distract Malcolm long enough for Henry to get close and take him out the old-fashioned way, plunging the cold steel of his knife into Malcolm's warm body. Melody escapes the moment she gets the chance, and Henry follows her. However, her wound is still open, attracting a wolf that attacks her. Luckily, Henry arrives in time to fend it off with several shots. Unfortunately for him, Kappa was arriving, and upon hearing the gunshots, misunderstood the situation and believed Charlie was in danger. With Henry's death, Charlie decides to do the right thing and returns to the cabin to hand over the evidence that Brigel ordered Kessler's murder. With that, he will be arrested, and Charlie will be able to claim her inheritance and become the owner of everything her father once founded.
I heard a rumor through the grapevine so bold. Lawrence Lim got a million stories untold. From green jokes, conspiracies, and edits with flair. You gotta follow him, baby, if you dare. Your feet feels empty without his magic touch. You got the blues and the laughs that you crave so much. With a click and a follow, you'll find some relief. Lawrence Lim's social media, a digital belief. Click, subscribe, don't miss a trick. Now, hey, leave your worries and come on, click today. Lawrence Lim's got the content right in line. Follow him now.